Hello, it's Emily Moorhouse-Aires here from Healthscape, and I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the science behind pH360. So pretty much we are all different. So you are made up of your genes, which is your genetic material, your DNA that we get from your mum and dad, which doesn't change, and your environment and your lifestyle, which does change. So this is pretty much everything that you've been exposed to from birth right through to now. This is the air that you breathe, the toxins that you've been, or the chemicals or the nutrients that you've been exposed to over your lifetime. This is what you've been eating, what you've been drinking, who you've been socializing with, how happy you've been, what thoughts you've had, pretty much everything that interacts in your lifestyle. So a mixture of your genes and your lifestyle make up you, and you're unique and you're different to every other person on the planet. So the science of epigenetics, this is really big, and what a lot of the pH360 platform is based on, the science of epigenetics. Epi just means outside of or above, and that's in relation to your genes. So this is talking about pretty much whether your genes are switched on or off. So in a simplistic way, we have certain genes, for example, that will cause us to store fat, and certain genes, for example, that can cause us to burn fat. So different things that we do in our lifestyle and our environment can cause these genes to switch on or switch off. So pretty much make it able to be read. And that's really, really important, because we used to think that we were defined by our genes, and that if we understood our genes, we knew what would happen to us, like it was sort of fixed at birth. We knew what diseases you'd get and so on. Whereas now we know that the environment, or the epigenetics, plays a way bigger role. In fact, 95%. That means only up to 5% of things are defined solely by your genes. The rest is related to your environment and how your environment reacts with your genes, which is really, really cool, because that puts the onus back on us. It gives us way more control. It means that what we do in everyday life makes a difference, and it counts, and it leads us to what our future is going to be, and pretty much we are in charge and have control over our health status. So what does pH360 stand for? It stands for Personalised Health, and the 360 degrees of the wheel are right there. And it's the most advanced online personalised health platform in the world. What it does is it takes the extensive health questionnaire and all the structural skeletal measurements, and it maps out our 25,000 genes. Not only that, it can actually account for the epigenetic factors and how the environment has switched those genes on and off, which is pretty cool. It uses 15 different layers of science, so things like neuroscience and epigenetics, like I've talked about, chronobiology, which is all about the science of timings, which is very important, embryology, which we're going to talk about next, nutrigenomics, molecular biology, neuropsychology, and even the evidence-based components of traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. So 15 layers of science are filtered into the platform. There's over 10,000 computations and 500 algorithms. It's a very complicated and accurate system. All these things are factored into the platform. You don't need to do it yourself, it's done. And all these things come together to help you understand your unique biotrend. As I've said before, on the platform, every single person's platform is different. And you'll have different recommendations to other people. Now, this comes to how this all came about. So Matt Riemann is one of the main founders of the pH360 platform, and he's part of the Ultimate Human Foundation, or he founded the Ultimate Human Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organisation, which it's sort of like a collaboration of health scientists and health professionals from around the world, and they've got a common mission of wanting to end chronic pain and disease by the year 2050. So a pretty big goal, but they've already made huge inroads, and like they're doing collaborations with councils and governments and hospitals and big corporations and schools and fitness centres. And all sorts of things. So it's the movement's really growing, and they're just bringing more and more people into that space. It's all about collaboration, and they're really in it for the right reason. And all the money that goes into that they get from things like the pH360 platform all goes back into improving the platform and the app and the research and the science, and taking pretty much on the way to that mission, which I think is a very cool mission to have, and something that's really awesome to be part of. So how the platform works, as I said, it filters in those 15 layers of science. It filters all of the information that you put in your skeletal measurements. It filters those through those 15 layers of science. So pretty much what it does is it's not new. It's taking the wisdom that we've had over the ages, all those different sciences, the stuff, decades of research and centuries of data from scientific studies and lifestyle interventions, is bringing that all together into one platform. And by measuring your body, science can assess your current health status. So it takes all that information, and then what it does is it spits out really easy things, just really easy tips and suggestions for you personally in terms of your food, in terms of your exercise, social, mind, career, and even your place in your environment. And it actually changes over time as well as your current health status changes and as you get older, which is really cool. All right, so to understand the science of how the how PH360 platform can reverse engineer your genes, we have to understand a little bit about the embryological development. So when you were conceived a very long time ago, when your mum and dad had an awesome time, pretty much as you were conceived, your cells just kept doubling and doubling and doubling until it gets to 36 cells, and then it specializes. And at that time of specialization, it starts to build and develop into 3 layers of the derms, 3 dermal layers. And one is the ectoderm here, which is where a lot of the nervous system, so the brain and the skin cells and things like that is formed. The middle layer here, or the mesoderm, and this is where a lot of our movement organs and tissues are developed. So you can see here things like the bone, the fascia, the muscle, the red blood cells, things like the heart as well. And then also the internal layer, the endoderm layer. And as you can see here, that's where a lot of our digestive organs are built. So it's our lungs and the digestive tube, the thyroid, things like that. So all of us have all 3 dermal layers, obviously, but for a mix between our genes and the environment in our mum's womb will cause 1 or 2 of these layers to become more dominant and more energy to be put towards that development. And depending on what happens at embryological development, depends on what our end structure or our body type or what we look like as an adult will actually depend from what's happened here in the mum's womb when we're that small, which is pretty amazing. So if we had more energy put towards the layer of the ectoderm there, you'll find that there's often a more slender, often reasonably tall build, like a pencil type build. So they have the kind of the finest bones. They're generally a little bit lighter, more kind of petite, slender build. And then you've got, if you had more energy put into the layer of the mesoderm during development, as you can tell here, all those movement kind of tissues, it makes sense that this body will be a muscular, athletic type body. They're often shorter as well, so they're kind of shorter and but quite a defined muscle, with kind of medium-sized bones. And if you had more energy put into the layer of the endoderm during embryological development, then you'll end up more of this body type here called the endomorph. And this is the biggest body. So they have the largest muscles naturally, the largest bone structure, and have more of a propensity for fat tissue as well. And because they had a lot of the digestive organs and the lungs developed, they actually have a larger digestive system and larger lungs as well, which makes sense with a larger body. So that's where the somatotypes that you may have heard of come in, the ectomorph, the mesomorph, and the endomorph. Now, PH360 have gone one step further, and instead of having those 3 body types, they have kind of expanded that to 6, because you don't always have it's not always just one part of the dermal layer that you're more dominant in. Sometimes it could be 2 layers of tissues. So the activator here is the name that they give to the pure mesomorph. So that's who the person that's developed more through the mesoderm layer. The guardian is a name given to the pure endomorph, or people that have developed more during embryological development in the endoderm. And the sensor is the pure ectomorph, who has developed more through the ectodermal layer. So, and here we have in-betweens. So the crusader is a mixture. It's an ecto-meso mix here. So there'll be there'll be traits that are like both, and the body shape will sort of be a mix there. The connector is a mix between the mesomorph and the endomorph, and the diplomat is the mix between the endomorph and the ectomorph. So it might sound a little bit complicated, but it all makes sense and just starts to give you a bit of a grounding and a bit of an understanding of how these health types come about. Now, what's really important to understand is that there isn't really such a thing as a health type. These are just, it's sort of like a teaching tool. It's a way to build understanding. As I've said to you, we're all completely different. And so, as you can see, there's more than 6 types of people on the planet. There's over 8 billion people on the planet, and we're all different. But what we find is that depending on your embryological development, we tend to find that you do, and your body shape, and therefore your body shape, we find that you have certain traits or trends that are kind of true to people that are part of that health type. But depending on each individual will be how much you relate to those general health trends, because we all have little bits of elements, that's what these threads are here, from all the other health types, and we have so much other information as well that makes us who we are. But this is a really good, the health types are a good way of getting a general understanding of what we're about and about the health trends that relate to our body shape and our body type, which is very, very interesting. But the key thing to remember is that we're all unique. Thanks very much. I hope this has helped.